Good morning, everyone. 17 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Sunrise Show. Craig Fronikin is your host, and thrilled to welcome from New York, Jonathan Blum. He's an independent technology writer. He's an analyst. He's written for the AP, Popular Science, even got some stuff on Fox. And it's amazing. He has put out a report, studied very long, and his recent report, he has a book coming out as well later this year. Where are the best places to build a career and a life? And we've got that website up on our Facebook page, grow.acorns.com. And Jonathan, it's great to have you this morning. It's amazing because it ties into Oregon. And how are you, sir?
I am very well, and every once in a while, the system really works. It's sort of amazing, isn't it? You know, I wrote this report, and when we studied national education trends, and I can give you the whole backstory if you want it, for some nutty reason, Benton, Oregon, the county up north of you, came up as a fascinating demographic nugget about information. And it was so interesting that I said, okay, now look, we got to find out what's really going on. And I began to do research, and I did some outreach, and you and I met, and we've been talking over the past couple of days, and you turned me on to the whole backstory about how tracts of lands are being managed. And let me tell you, there's a real demographic impact. You can really see what's happened to your communities with the way those lands have been managed.
Well, this
is
is
really fascinating.
And this is and what stuck out with you with Benton County. You were looking about education and everything else, and college graduates, and
absolutely.
So Benton County, 88,000 population, but 24% graduate degrees,
right.
Good jobs, education management, and believe it or not, library sciences. Okay, and then there's a lot that correlates with Jackson County and Southern Oregon, but I don't know, did you ever know throughout the whole report, and when you saw the state of Oregon, that 53% of the land base in Oregon is managed and controlled by the federal government?
Not until you showed me that map yesterday, and the correlation between the activity on those on those federal lands and the success, and let's be blunt, failure. I mean, we can. I don't want to talk trash about where people live, but it's no secret that people are struggling out there in some parts of your state. When you see that, you really see what dramatic impact the change in the way these lands have been managed since the 80s. Now, there's good news. In other places of the report, we saw some counties turn around, particularly in the Midwest, that eventually recovered from sort of the Rust Belt economics of the 1970s. There's sort of second-generation Rust Belt families that have made a comeback. But right now, oh heavens, it's really stark when you look at a place like Benton, and then you look where you guys, where some of the counties maybe a little closer to where you are, and how few people graduate from college, how much they struggle for the young to find a place to live. Grow is aimed at the younger investor. It's about giving the young people new tools they can use on their phones, and just how tough it is for that demographic to succeed in your part of the state. It really stuck out.
Well, and here's the thing, right? And Jackson County, apples to apples, Benton County, 24% with graduate degrees in Benton County. You go to Jackson County.
Yep.
Overall, let's see, graduate degree 10.5%.
Yep.
This is from the 2014 numbers, and then 15% with a bachelor's degree. So, and then associate's degree only 8%, and this is in Jackson County.
Yep.
And then, of course, Benton County. It's amazing with this.
It's amazing. And then when you go further east and you get into Crook, you'll actually see the percentages get even worse. So you'll be in a place where people with some college, they start college as 27%. Only 7% get the associate's degree, 10% graduate, and guess what the graduate degree figure is?
I don't even
5%.
know. I was just going to say half of that probably.
Yeah, it's preposterous. And you see the median age begins to creep up to 46.5, and suddenly we all know they're beautiful natural resources, but the people there struggle. The housing stock isn't right. And then when you start overlaying the demographic data, the part that was really shocking to me is when you actually study how the demographers look at that. So I'm going to overlay, and you can see that at digitalskeptic.com. When you not .com at the Twitter feed, excuse me.
Yeah.
You'll see that demographers define these things as so-called Middleburg. They kind of give it kind of a rosy sort of cast that things are really working out here. But what it really tends to hide is real stubborn poverty and a deep dysfunction in how these parts of the world operate. And as a demographer and a mapper, oh my heavens, it's fascinating.
Well,
really
and
is.
here's the next thing is our legislators, because I have them on during the session, and I say, they were saying, where are the jobs bills? Where's the job creation? And you get this tax, and you get all these other things that are going on, and yet, what are they talking about? Getting rid of coal-fired power plants and then upping the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and now on the cutting edge of gun control. But where are the jobs? And are you wouldn't believe this, Jonathan, but our United States Senator Ron Wyden was saying, well, we need to get people out in the forest. Tourism. That was their answer. Tourism in Oregon. It's a great place to visit. Well, you're thinking, wait a minute, that builds service jobs.
It absolutely echoes the way the demographic story that's being painted in the information that I see. Of course they're going to make that conclusion because the demographics the data points towards a story based on these type of service economy, on this service economy. They struggle to even see how an industrial story can be told. Absolutely. I totally see that in the information.
Well, and then the next thing is attracting businesses, of course, attracting clean business and technology. And I know you'll get a kick out of this. There was another report that came out that talked about, and I've got that, the median tech salary for tech workers, $105,000. I mean, Oregon's like ninth, and we can talk more about that. I've also got this amazing article, came out in 2014, and it's the Eric Mortensen, and he's one of the state economists, and he talked about rural Oregon economy dire but not hopeless. The state's rural areas stuck in a negative, perpetuating cycle in which young people leave because they can't find jobs, and companies don't move in because the workforce is leaving.
And you want to know something? I mean, I don't want to rub it in here, but what I'm trying to do is point to there might be an optimistic future here. The type of jobs like that pay so well are almost invariably based on software engineering and coding.
Right.
And they can be done on computers that can be located anywhere.
Right.
And in a lot of ways, these parts of the world where the standard of living is relatively low, it really presents the perfect opportunity for training up a new workforce that can work in this new global information economy.
Well,
and why these places don't take advantage of that, that's the million-dollar question.
Exactly. And Southern Oregon is a destination place. They've got wonderful, beautiful things here, and much like Benton County, if young people or tech savvy, they value their surroundings, then they're going to work in a place that they're happy. And once again, that echoes with what you're doing. Jonathan, we've got to get to a break, but this is great. We're going to continue because I want to talk about that report and what else is going on with this report. Jonathan just put together this report. Where are the best places to build a career and a life? Jonathan Blum, independent tech writer and analyst. And Jonathan, let's see. You want to get to grow.acorns.com.
Right.
Right,
for
the
website. On the homepage. You can see it.
And Jonathan is known as the digital skeptic, but it's great when you see all this analytic stuff. And we'll get right back. We got to get to a break and then more on the Sunrise Show after this. Good morning, everyone. 35 minutes after the hour. Welcome back to the Sunrise Show. Craig Fronick and continuing with Jonathan Blum. He's an independent technology writer and analyst out of New York, and he's put out an incredible report, and it's interactive. It's so fun because you can zoom in and out. You can check all the different states. You can get into county per county. You can see the demographic, and you pop. And then Benton County just leaps off the map, and that's why Jonathan and I are talking this morning, because Benton County has a lot of demographic like Southern Oregon. And Jonathan, we were talking about, 24% of the 88,000 people that live up there in Benton, graduate degrees, and you were just blown away. You couldn't figure out why. And it's this lifestyle and move of folks that have education but want to get out into the woods.
Correct. And then the disconnect that you taught me, and I think this is such a fascinating story of the geography, is that prosperity stops. When you go east, where it's just as beautiful, as far as I recall, I made the drive from San Francisco north, you have these stubborn pockets of terrible of poverty, and they really make no sense because a lot of that prosperity comes from software jobs, and those can be done anywhere, from any laptop. All you need is a web connection. And so where that disconnect comes from, that's this discussion. What does land regulation do to that? What do real estate values do to that? What are the bad habits that they have in a given community that suppress innovation? Oh, it's fascinating stuff.
Well, it is. And here's the next thing that I've come up with, and that is the rural county needs the urban county, and the urban county needs the rural county. And there's this blend. You can't have one without the other. But yet it's this fight. In fact, I cited this article from January of 2014. It's not changed much. It came out of the Oregon State Office of Economic Analysis, and Mark McMullen. And he said, in some rural counties, death now exceed birth, and an aging demographic dim economic growth. And he talks about, of course, there's 36 different counties, and now it's a matter of bringing lumber back and timber back, and we've got all this. It's going to come out of the forest. Now the forests are unhealthy. We've got a drought situation going on, and it doesn't seem like the leaders, the elected officials, have a long-term outlook for the citizenry.
No, and if you made the inverse of this map, if I wanted to make a depressing map, if you map up mortality and mortgage default rates, you would probably see an exact inversion of what we publish. Now, the Grow people, they're all about prosperity. They're a service that's aimed towards young people to learn how to invest smartly from their smartphones. It's a marvelous idea. Good for them. But if you're going to go the other way with it, and you really wanted to dig in how dangerous things are getting, you would find some really shocking results in terms of overall mortality, which can be a decade or a decade and a half less between those well-off and those not so well-off. And that data can really be shocking, no question.
Now, what's happening with other counties around the country? Because there's definite pockets. I mean, you can see the counties, like you said, they leap off the map. They're colored in. And the sad part is, like Jackson County, what was it that the percentages what they don't finish?
Yeah, almost half. When you start getting into the stubborn rural areas, once you know what you're looking for, you'll see that probably about half of the kids that attempt college never finish. Now, the upside here, since we're having sort of a depressing morning, is if you go to other parts of the country that have faced similar challenges, there are definite success stories. And one of my favorites is north of Indianapolis, over in Indiana. Now, in the 1960s and 70s, there was a similar tectonic shift in the country. We stepped away from manufacturing jobs, and a lot of the Midwest suffered. There was so-called Rust Belt at the time. I'm sure a lot of you listeners remember. And what some families did is they decided not to leave, and they committed to staying and building a life. And what you have are these Rust Belt 2.0 communities that have turned around and are really growing. And if you find those, you'll see that they've been able to make the jump into lucrative information-based jobs, and these stories, these jobs can really be created anywhere. You do not have to go to the cities. You really can bring that urban experience to you. You just have to be really smart about training your people and planning ahead. It can definitely be done. No question.
Well, and there is this choice by, being 30 or 40 minutes away from a river, a mountain, a bike trail, anything like that. And many, many people, that's why we live here. It's a wonderful gem in Southern Oregon, and they just have to get resourceful. It was so interesting. I was tracking down a guest, and he was literally in the moving truck. And I said, wait a minute, what do you mean? You're in the movie? You're moving? He said, I have to. My client base is in San Francisco. And I was just going, wow. I said, well, good luck. We wish you a good life. And I hung up and I said, oh, and he was like late 20s. He was burgeoning entrepreneur, and he stayed in Southern Oregon as long as he could. And he said, Craig, I'm sorry, but my client base is in San Francisco. I said, well, call me anytime, blah, blah, blah. and I hang up, and I just feel like, wow.
Yeah, you see this a lot in population migration patterns. Anybody in so-called client-facing roles, that's the buzzword for sales, it's very tough to be far away. You really need to either be very close to a very good airport, you need to be traveling very, very much, and cities can do this. Like, for example, Las Vegas, one of the reasons why they had a housing bubble there is they have an excellent airport, and they had excellent service into Asia. So a lot of client-facing, and to be honest with you, really terrific tax incentives, but that's another story. They were very focused, and they could travel easily, so they could live there. You'll see that in Detroit. There's a nice airport there that a lot of companies are starting. In Southern Oregon, that's tough to do. That's a tough environment.
Well, and it's hard to get. I mean, we've got a beautiful airport. It's just a matter of getting east. We had a leg that went to Denver and Salt Lake for a time, and Salt Lake I think is still going on, and Denver not so much. But they normally push us to Portland or San Francisco. Right. Now, you brought up Detroit. I wanted to ask you before we finish up Detroit, because I pick on Detroit with education failure, the Democrat leadership there.
Rightly so.
So what do you see? What do you see?
My family's from. My in-laws are from there.
So what do you see now? What are you seeing now as far as pockets of education or things like that in Michigan and Detroit?
Bluntly, to be honest, I think it's overstated. I mean, it's still, things are coming back. You can find an optimistic story. The Flint water crisis was just such a classic,
right.
Mismanagement on so many levels. It's going to be very tough. It takes a generation to turn around what you lost. And I think everybody trying to dust this off and polish this up as a great success story, yeah, it eventually happens. It's a great country. We're some of the smartest people in the world. But these tough challenges that we face are real. And really the story I learned from you in the last 24 hours of doing this is denial.
Yes.
Is the big problem.
Yes.
It's the fact that nobody's willing to accept that, well, wait a minute now. These people who are getting frustrated with this, and obviously, this is all about the Oregon land management issues and that poor man, and that whole standoff story.
Right.
If you look below that, those social tensions are real, and pretending that they're not there, I think that's really the big lesson, is you've got to start having a reasonable debate. And then, if you're going to pretend that these people are better off than they really are, you're never going to make a good decision.
Absolutely, and that's what we're trying. And I say this all the time: is that it feels like our elected officials are not listening to us. They're not hearing.
And they cannot see you. If there's one thing I can show you, and I'd love to stay in contact with you, trust me, from a demographic level, they're not even seeing you. They don't even think you exist. It's not coming up in the data. It's crazy.
Well, and here's the last little piece that you'll just blow your mind. So there is some rumor that President Obama wants to make, and there's a big movement, the Owyhee Lands, Canyonland proposal, wilderness proposal, that would, off of the Antiquities Act from 1906, and the presidents all use this, but President Obama, there's some possibility he wants to swoop in and take Eastern Oregon, 2.5 million acres, and make it into a wilderness monument. And you're thinking, wait a minute, ranchers, so you have grazing rights, water rights, mineral rights, all of that will change. And you're thinking, the county, Malheur County, has already voted. Anyway, that's another conversation for another day.
Another day.
Oh, gosh.
Fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I really learned so much on this. I thank you so much. Every once in a while, the system works. And this is exactly what I need to further my work. I really appreciate your time. You've been very generous.
This is
very,
great.
very gracious of you.
No, I love it. Jonathan Blum, ladies and gentlemen, he's an independent technology writer and analyst out of New York. He's got a book coming out. We're going to stay in touch with him. And he's got all kinds of things. And he just put this grow.acorns.com, and you won't believe it. Where are the best places to build a career and a life? And the link is on our Facebook page if you want to get there, along with Twitter. We've been blowing up on our Twitter account all morning long, so check all of that out. We got to get to a break, but Jonathan, thanks again. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Really, thank you so much for reaching out to me.
Jonathan Blum, ladies and gentlemen, the digital skeptic. All right. Thanks, sir.
Thanks, sir.
We'll get moving and get to a break, and then just take your calls, 541-772-8255.